Good evening, everyone. We apologize for the late start, but thank you so much for joining us on our NBC6 Voices YouTube and Facebook pages. Well, did you know that sickle cell is Awareness Month, and sickle cell disease occurs most often among African Americans, Hispanics of Caribbean ancestry. And listen to this. There's a startling number here. It's estimated that sickle cell disease affects 90 to 100,000 people in the United States, mainly Blacks or African Americans. The disease happens among about 1 out of every 500 Black or African American births, and among about 1 out of every 36,000 Hispanic American births as well. Now, I had the opportunity to speak with a student that is going through living with sickle cell. She's a student at The Ohio State University. I had the opportunity of speaking with her about what it means to live with sickle cell. Take a listen.
It can be really difficult sometimes, but I think overall it really helps me succeed in different ways. It definitely makes me a stronger person. And honestly, I feel like it gave me a purpose and made me want to be a hematologist oncologist. And yeah, I mean, it's not as bad as some people make it. It can definitely be, really hard, but at the same time, if you could try to make your weakness into a strength. So that's how I try to look at it.
Amen. I want to know about when you first found out about sickle cell, and did you even know anything about it? Did you find out early in your life? And how did you find out about it?
Yeah, I definitely found out really early in my life. So before I was born, like when my mom was pregnant, she knew that I was gonna have sickle cell. And I mean, like when I was a young kid, I really didn't like understand completely. I just knew that sometimes I would get sick. And I think around the age of like, 11, 12, 13 was when like I really started to understand like what was wrong and like how to prevent it. And yeah, I was a kid. So it's definitely like kind of hard because there was some things that I wanted to do where I felt like I couldn't do because I had sickle cell. Like, I wanted to be in a whole bunch of sports and stuff like that, and I would be afraid of getting sick. And so, it definitely, in a way, robbed me of my childhood. But at the same time, I never let it stop me. So.
And Jasmine, let's talk a little bit about that. So for those folks that don't know what it is to live with sickle cell, tell me some of the symptoms that you have, some of the things that you have to deal with when living with sickle cell, some of the pain that you have to sometimes deal with.
So, I mean, the pain is definitely the number one symptom that gets on my nerves the most because I feel like I deal with it really often. At the same time, there's other symptoms. So, you have fatigue, which obviously makes you tired. You have jaundice. So, like, my eyes sometimes are yellow. That's kind of how I can tell, like, when I'm sick or, I feel like I'm going to start getting sick soon. I can, my eyes are yellow. That's an indicator. Other than that, there's like other symptoms that you can have when you have sickle cell. So you could be at risk for like a stroke, and acute chest syndrome, which is having a sickle cell crisis in your chest, which can be really detrimental. That you have to go on like breathing treatments, and ultimately it could kill you if it's bad enough. So it definitely can be really scary, and the pain itself is just really annoying because sometimes I have it every day. Sometimes I have it when the weather changes. Like right now, my menstruation cycle is about to start and I'm having pain. And so, it's really like an all the time type of thing. It's not even like a certain time of the year it's all the time. And it can really be annoying.
And Jasmine, I wanted to ask you, you're a student at Ohio State University. You talked about some of your goals already. What are you hoping to accomplish after graduation?
So the goal is to go to med school. I'm looking at the Ohio State University Med School. If not, also I'm looking at Case, looking at a few other schools that are not in Ohio. But yeah, ultimately the goal is to be healthy enough where I'm able to attend med school and become a hematologist oncologist. So therefore I can have patients who have sickle cell, and I can start to help other people with sickle cell. And that's why also Spanish is my minor right now. And so I hope to go to Latin America because there are a lot of different variants of sickle cell. And I want to discover and learn about the other types of sickle cell that really aren't talked about. So that's my hope, is to experience that.
What would you like to say to the folks out there that maybe are not as educated about sickle cell? What would you like them to know?
I want them to know that although sickle cell can be really, bad, especially for somebody and the family members, who have to deal with the person that has it, it doesn't have me. I still am very, unique. I still have other qualities that define my, what's the word? Defines my personality. And like I said, sickle cell made me stronger. So a lot of the stuff that people have to deal with, colds or, asthma, stuff like that, sometimes, it's not as bad as sickle cell. And so, if I'm sick, if I have the flu or cold or, even like when I'm having cramps, I feel like having sickle cell made me stronger. Therefore, that type of stuff doesn't hurt me as much. I have a really high pain tolerance where it takes a lot of pain to really like knock me off my feet. So, but yeah, the main thing is that sickle cell is like not my defining factor in my personality. I have a lot more going for me. The fact that, I go to OSU, I want to be a doctor, love science and math. So yeah, that's the most
So
important
sickle cell
thing.
does not define you.
Yeah, it doesn't define me.
There's so much more to Jasmine Winston than sickle cell.
Yeah, basically.
Well, I wanted to ask you, talking about sickle cell, because you are an advocate. You've launched a sickle cell Lego challenge on TikTok to promote sickle cell awareness. Tell me a little bit more about this.
So like my mom, she was the one who really, kind of convinced me to kind of think of a way to get sickle cell, out there in the world, to get people my age, involved and to really raise awareness for it. She was just like, basically try to find a way to, have somebody feel the pain of sickle cell. I'm like, there's really no way to describe that, it really isn't. But the closest thing I could come up with was like if you accidentally step on a Lego and it's just like, like that kind of hurts. And
Oof.
that was like my comparison of it. So now like I guess the challenge is, step or lay on Legos, do it on TikTok, that type of thing. And I hope for it to be like the ALS challenge where everybody does the ice bucket challenge, a whole bunch of celebrities were doing it. Like that's kind of what I was hoping for. People would become more aware, they donate money, they donate blood, like all of those types of very important things that are needed for sickle cell patients and for the research of it. So
Do you believe there's enough research in regards to sickle cell? Do you think that it's overlooked as one of those things that people tend to overlook and they focus on other illnesses out there?
yeah, I definitely think it's an illness that's overlooked because it's an illness that predominantly affects people of color. So, a lot of people, they don't feel like it's a necessary disease to, give money towards, considering there's not a whole bunch of individuals that have it. But the problem is the more that people reproduce and the more that people with sickle cell trait reproduce, the more likely the population of, incoming people that are going to have sickle cell trait and sickle cell disease. So it's only going to continue if we don't end up stopping it, you know. So, but yeah, they don't feel like, because it's such a small number of people that have it, that it's not of concern. But, that's debatable because even though I have an amazing life as a 21-year-old college student, it still really sucks to have to, miss class or be in the hospital and, have all this pain all the time. It's just, yeah, not fair.
And it's amazing though what you talked about, missing class because of an illness, and it can happen any day. You can
Yeah,
get an illness at any day, or you could be impacted by sickle cell any day without even knowing.
right. Yeah, it happens randomly. It can be something as simple as the weather changing or stress factor. And so yeah, it's definitely very frustrating. Like when you make plans, especially like with your friends or family, or even just plans for like, midterms, test quizzes, the MCAT, for example. I was having pain during my MCAT when I was taking it both times. I took it
Wow.
twice and I had pain both times. And so, obviously it's hard to schedule your MCAT and you can't really reschedule it like on the day of. And I'm like, regardless of when I take it, I'm probably going to have pain. So I just kind of have to suffer through it because it comes from stress. And so yeah, it's definitely it sucks because it's just like other people don't have to deal with it, right? Other people applying to college.
That's right.
So it's just like I'm the odd man out because I'm the one that's, having to go to the ER after to get, medicine because I'm not feeling well. But everybody else can, go home and do do whatever they do. So it's definitely frustrating. It's definitely a challenge, but at the same time, when I overcome that and I'm able to be just as competitive as everybody else, I feel like that's what makes me really proud about myself. So.
And Jasmine, how has COVID impacted living with sickle cell? Has that made it twice as hard?
Yes. Okay. So the main problem that I've been having is when I'm having pain and I go to the ER or the sickle cell clinic, it seems as if the COVID patients take up most of the hospital space. So people like me, they kind of shoo me away. Like, obviously we don't want you here. You're going to get sick, but also we don't have room for you here. You just kind of have to suffer at home and deal with it. That was kind of the message I was getting back when COVID was really bad. And now it's getting bad again to the point where it's like, if you end up catching COVID and you have some type of, immunocompromised disease, it can really make you sick. It can, even really, kill some people. So it's definitely kind of scary where it's like I double mask, I stay away from people, I use hand sanitizer, like I don't eat in public, like those types of precautions I have to take because I know if I get COVID, it may not turn out the way that it's supposed to be. I may really be sick. I may really be sick for a long period of time. So.
All right. Well, Jasmine, you call yourself the odd man out, but to me and to many of us, you're very strong, and we really appreciate you being an advocate for sickle cell. And I wish you nothing but the best. I want to see you go on and continue to do great things, and we really appreciate you joining us for Voices.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Got it. All right. Again, Jasmine Winston right there. We really appreciate her joining us here for the show. And now here to break down all things medical surrounding sickle cell is Dr. Lynetta Bronte-Hall. Now, Dr. Bronte-Hall is the president and chief health officer for the Foundation of Sickle Cell Disease Research. They offer medical services, provide resources, and conduct research on sickle cell here in South Florida. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Joanne. And wow, Miss Winston was such an inspiration. She was outstanding.
Absolutely. She really was. And I learned a lot from her, and it's good to have you on so you could break down things for us a little bit more. For all of those that may not understand what sickle cell is, what is sickle cell?
Well, sickle cell disease is a genetic disorder, and it is a gene that is passed from each parent to their child. So each parent passes the gene. You can't get sickle cell disease just from one parent. So the gene, the genetic defect is on the red blood cell. The red blood cell carries our oxygen, and we need this oxygen to go to all of our organs. In sickle cell disease, you have the red blood cell that is shaped like a sickle because of a genetic mutation. And this genetic mutation then leads to a lot of complications, mainly related to just severe oxygen deprivation that begins at birth. So it's a very chronic disease that is coupled with a lot of acute exacerbations, such as the constant acute pain that you hear about that patients go to the hospital for.
And you heard Jasmine talk a little bit about the pain, some of the things she goes through. She even talked about when the weather changes, just how it could just come on at any moment. Why is the Black community most affected by sickle cell?
Oh, yes. So it's such a fascinating story. And it really is a story of public health and survival. So the sickle gene has been around for about 7,000 years. And it started in Africa, so in areas where malaria was endemic. And the body had to figure out a way to survive because malaria was in getting into the red blood cell from the mosquito, and essentially the population was dying rapidly. So over time, the body figured out how to survive. So having sickle trait, having one gene versus two genes, having that one gene led to survival, survival against malaria. So there was this inborn immunity, so to speak, by having the sickle gene, by having the trait, but two traits together lead to sickle cell disease. So this started in Africa. And so everyone who traveled for whatever reason outside of Africa, some willingly, some not so willingly, but that gene went along with them. And so we have sickle cell all over the US, all over the world, actually. In the United States, we have about 100,000 individuals that are affected. The large percentage are African American and also Hispanic American. Countries like Brazil have a larger number of people with sickle cell disease because they had more individuals who were in the slave trade that went over to Brazil. So it really is a product of the transatlantic slave trade and how the gene, spread in the U.S. and throughout the world.
And doctor, can you explain the multiple types of sickle cell disease?
Yes, there are several types, and that is because there are variants, within the hemoglobin. So there is hemoglobin SS disease, and that is thought of as the most severe form of sickle cell disease. There's also hemoglobin beta thalassemia. There's beta thalassemia 0 and beta thalassemia plus. The beta thalassemia 0 mimics more of the sickle cell SS, the most severe type. There's also hemoglobin SC, SD. So there are many variants, but the most common are SS and SC and S beta thalassemia.
Oh, wow. Now you're going way over my head now. Way over my head. But you know what? I'm learning a lot about sickle cell here tonight. And I hope a lot of people that are watching are learning as well. So the big question, are there ways of preventing sickle cell? Is there a cure for sickle cell? Are they working on one?
Yes, and we talk a lot now about the cure. So it really comes down to how are we defining a cure in sickle cell disease? Are we looking at disease modifying therapies that keep the patients out of the emergency department, for example? We have some new FDA approved medications for sickle cell disease, Oxbryta, Endari, and Adakveo. So there are 3 new drugs now that have been approved. There's also gene therapy. What do we look for in gene therapy when we think about a cure? Are we looking to have a hemoglobin, a red blood cell that is now AA versus having S hemoglobin? Or do we just need for that red blood cell to look like a sickle cell trait, hemoglobin A and a hemoglobin S? Because if you have the carrier status, for the most part, you don't have a lot of health challenges. So a cure, we're in the process of defining what that really looks like. Gene therapy is very promising in sickle cell disease. The remission rate is extremely high. I mean, we're looking at 90%. You almost don't see that in transplants or gene therapy. So there's a lot of promise. Our goal now is to get the education out to our families so that they understand what it entails to be considered for a cure, and to really participate and understand and be a part of the decision-making process. But it's a very exciting time for sickle cell disease in the United States and around the world. There's a lot of energy. The National Institutes of Health is very excited and is really pouring a lot of money into sickle cell research. So we know that before too long, I would say within 10 years, we're going to see some type of cure that many patients can take advantage of.
I love to hear that. I love that optimism there. And I want to ask you a little bit more. You touched on it a little bit, but can you talk about a little bit more in detail what the Foundation of Sickle Cell Disease Research does?
Yes. So we are a standalone sickle cell facility in the community. And the goal of the foundation was really to pull the patients appropriately, out of the emergency department and the hospital setting. And so we're able to do that by offering as many of the services on site. So they get infusion therapy. They have a full array of primary care evaluations. We have a hematologist oncologist who's our medical director, as well as nurse practitioners who serve as primary care providers. We contract with ophthalmology so that they can get the yearly eye exam. All of the specialists, we really work very hard to ensure that the patients receive as many specialty services, working with not only our in-house case managers, but case managers from the healthcare plans to really keep the patients in a more healthy state so that they can be in the community, stay in school like they want to, have the jobs that they want to have,
Yes.
and get to the point of living the life pain-free, which is the goal for sickle cell disease. So at the foundation, we support the medical side of sickle cell care as well as the clinical research. So we participate in many phase 2, phase 3 clinical trials. We've been involved in bringing these new therapeutics to market. So we're very excited again about being in this space with sickle cell disease and look forward to growing our services throughout the state of Florida and beyond. We're very serious about sickle cell disease.
Dr. Bronte-Hall, thank you so much. Most importantly, thank you for your service. We really appreciate you. Continue to do big things and continue to remain optimistic because we love hearing that.
Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you.
You got it. All right, now here joining me today, you may recognize him, Sylvester Wesley. You may not recognize that name, but you do recognize the man known as Chico the Virgo. Chico the Virgo is a radio veteran here in Florida with 50, the big 50 years of experience on air. He doesn't even look like it, I tell you. You may have heard him on your drive on Hot 105. He joins us today to tell us about the Sylvester Wesley Foundation for Sickle Cell. Welcome him to the show. And
well, thank you very much.
You got it. Along with Chico is Karen Smith. Karen is a community outreach coordinator for the Sickle Cell Disease Association of Broward. Welcome, Karen, to the show as well.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you both so much for joining us. And of course, Chico, we want to start off with you. Chico the Virgo, why is it that you decided to celebrate your 50th year in radio by kickstarting a foundation to help build awareness for sickle cell?
Well, I had a nephew. He died at the young age of 25, and I watched him suffer with sickle cell disease his entire life. And I often wondered, what could I have done and what could I do now that he's passed on? And as I approached my 50th year anniversary on radio, I thought, well, wow, this is going to be major. So why don't I do something with it? So the attention that I'm getting for being on radio for 50 years, I thought, why not start a foundation and begin to make people aware of information about sickle cell disease, try to employ people to donate. And, this is a very worthy cause that, as you have heard earlier, is often ignored. If you don't have a family member or a friend with sickle cell, you never really think about it. So I've decided to use this little celebrity that I have to bring forth awareness and try and create an opportunity so that the Sickle Cell Foundation can receive some funds and donations.
Amen. Amen to that, brother. And Karen, you along with the Sickle Cell Disease Association of Broward are partnering with Chico for this initiative. Tell us a little bit more about your organization and what it does.
Well, we are a 501c3 organization as well. And we were, as a matter of fact, this year right here, we will celebrate our 44th anniversary. But our focus is educating the community about sickle cell disease and sickle cell trait. We do a lot of educational presentations. We go to schools, we go to nursing homes, we go to talk to anybody and everybody who will allow us to educate them about sickle cell. That's what we do. And then we also provide scholarships to our high school students And the unique thing about our scholarships, because we know that our clients get sick a lot and they have to drop classes, we allow them to apply for this scholarship until they finish their, get their degree. We also provide financial support. We coordinate bone and blood marrow drive, and we also encourage our clients to participate in research and finding a cure for this dreadful disease.
Amen. And Chico the Virgo, you watched your nephew suffer through this. Can you share a little bit more about your nephew and what he went through?
Yes, his name is Derek Lefevre, and I actually rolled him out of the hospital at birth. And I watched him go in and out of the hospital over the years, and I just could not understand what he was feeling, what was he going through, which made me feel like there has to be something I could do. And this fundraising is something that I think will bring about awareness. I have so many friends that can contribute, but again, they don't know that very much about it. So I've decided to create this foundation and use my celebrity again to make people aware of how they can support Sickle Cell Disease Foundation.
And let's talk a little bit more about sickle cell, the cost of this. I mean, you heard a little bit earlier, Jasmine talking about getting sick, going to the hospital, but the cost of sickle cell treatments is high. And we're talking about costs that can hit anywhere of $1 million for patients who reach 45 years old, with annual costs of $10,000 for children and $30,000 for adults. So Karen, what are some ways that people can donate to help those with sickle cell year round?
Well, we have a website they can go on and donate, and then we do a walk, an annual walk. We do a Strike for a Cure where we, which UPS helps us do, where we raise funds that way. And we also, I'm always in the community soliciting funds for our organization, so they could always give through our website and just be a part, be a part of this change. It needs to be a change when it comes to sickle cell disease.
All right, Chico the Virgo, I'm going to make sure that you have the last word here as we are celebrating you and 50 years on the radio. And first and foremost, I want to thank you for your service, brother. Thank you so much for all you do. It's okay that you are an Omega man, because I'm a Kappa man. It's all good. We're still part of the Divine Nine.
Absolutely.
You know, no worries here. But I want to leave you with the last word when it comes to sickle cell and giving back.
Well, again, I employ friends, family members to do some research, find out what sickle cell is all about. And then you'll realize how important it is to educate our community, because the more people know, the more they'll understand the importance of giving. Okay, so you want to know what you can do? You can donate for sickle cell research. Okay, education is important. God bless you.
God bless you as well, my brother. Thank you, Chico the Virgo, and Karen. Thank you so much, Karen Smith, for all you do in our community as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
You got it. Well, thank you everyone out there for joining us tonight for our show. Remember, you can watch this program Saturday morning on NBC6 at 9:30 a.m. Be sure to follow me on Instagram and Facebook at JawanNBC6. And you can also message us on social media if you have a story idea. And before we go, you heard from Chico the Virgo. Education is the key to success. If you believe, you will succeed. We'll see you next time. Have a great week.
Thank you.